Hi and welcome back to the BlockHead's realm. I am TechHead, and actually what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how to build a creeper farm. So if you caught up with the last episode, what we did is we built the creeper farm in our survival world, and what we're going to do in this video is show you a step-by-step guide on how to build this in your world as well. So as we get into it, if you like it and it works for you, make sure you do hit that like button. I really do appreciate that. And if you're new, why not go ahead and subscribe? Stay up to date with everything that we do here at the BlockHeads. And with all that said, done and out of the way, let's go ahead and get on with this build. So the first thing we want to do is we want to find a place to build this, right? So I've actually just created a brand new world, just a random seed, and essentially, actually building up in this ice biome is actually going to be interesting because obviously with build up of snow, etc., we could double up this creeper farm for many different purposes. But essentially what we're going to do is going to find a place that you want to build this. It doesn't really matter where, because essentially what we're going to do is we're going to build up to Y level 190. So the first thing we do is build all the way up. Okay, so up here at Y level 190, as you can see, my render distance is really, really low, so we can't really see too much. But essentially, when you're at Y90, what this means is you're going to basically control the mob count up in your farm rather than having cave systems down below interfering. So the first thing you want to do is you can build this up to any size you want. Just build yourself a platform. It's going to have to be a pretty decent size, and you're going to want to land on it and all that kind of good stuff as well. So you're going to have to fly up here, or if you wanted to create a ladder system, etc. So it's going to have to be a decent size. So you're going to want to make sure that you kind of make this platform to your requirements. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger, and then we'll crack on with the rest of the build. Okay, so once you've got your platform sorted, we can then go ahead and actually start to build the farm, right? So on Y level 190 here, what we're going to want to do is we're going to head over to one of the ends. Doesn't really matter which. So I'm going to start it over here. And what we want to do is we want to basically put down 4 pieces of ice, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this can be, of course, blue ice, it can be regular ice, it can be packed ice. Doesn't really matter so much. It's just about trying to keep a nice slippery surface for our trident killer to kind of go into. Okay, so this is where we're going to build the trident killer. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap this around with some blocks, okay, all the way around it. But we're going to leave one gap right here at the front, and then we're just going to complete this all the way around. Okay, so you end up with something that looks like this from above, and basically with 4 pieces of ice in the middle, and then wrapped around with solid blocks. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we want to get hold of some pistons, and we're going to put the pistons in this particular area. We're going to put one there, one there, one there, and one there. Okay, so that will end up looking like this from above. So once we have the pistons in place, the next thing that we're going to want to do is put our solid blocks in all of these areas just here, just to fill this up and make sure that everything is working accordingly. We're going to again leave a gap just here, but we might want to put something like a trapdoor there to prevent mobs escaping. But for the most part, we're going to control what spawns. So you can put something here just to kind of prevent that, whether that's a slab, but for the most part you can just leave this open. It shouldn't be a problem. The next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to come into our inventory here. We're just going to find some observers. Okay, so we no longer need the pistons, but we are going to need some observers. The observers, we're going to be placed in a very specific area. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a temporary block right there, and then we are going to put a observer just like so. Okay, and basically the back of this observer is going to output on top of the piston. Okay, so again what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing here. So it basically, that red dot there is on the piston, and again here and here. Okay, so once that is done, the next thing we're going to do is grab our solid blocks again, and we're going to fill these gaps in right here, just like so. We're going to delete actually just these end ones. We actually do want those to be free, so we'll just take that out. So we end up with something that looks like this. Okay, if that cloud would actually move out of the way, we would be able to get a better look. But essentially what we're going to end up with is basically an observer, a solid block, an empty space, observer, solid block, empty space, observer, solid block, empty space, just here, observer, block, empty space. Okay, the next thing that we want to do is we want to grab hold of a we'll take a dispenser. And what we're going to do is we're basically going to take our dispenser and we're going to put it specifically in this one spot right here. Okay, and we don't want to do anything more than just that one there. And then we want a lever. Okay, we're going to grab a lever. We're going to put a lever onto this dispenser. We're going to just use the control key, the shift key, and we're going to put it right there. We turn it down, and that will basically fire one of the pistons, okay? So if we turn it off, we can see it fires that one piston, and you can see it keep doing it. So we want the lever down for now. Okay, the next thing that we want is we're going to come down and we're going to get our repeaters. Okay, so this time what we're going to do is we're going to go into those corners where we left a gap, and we're going to put a repeater. The first one down here is going to be on 2 ticks. Okay, so this is the one that's directly behind our dispenser. We're then going to come around to this corner. We're going to put one here, and we're going to put this on 2 ticks as well. And then over on this end right here, one with 1 tick basically. Okay, so that actually then completes our entire trident killer here. If we flick this switch on, we can then go ahead and take a look inside, and we can see that it goes around in a perfect sequence. It's very important that this one's on 2 ticks, this one's on 2 ticks, and this one's on 1 tick. Okay, then you get the perfect sequence. We can then turn our trident killer off. Okay, so with that done, the next thing that we want to do is actually replace this solid block down at the bottom here. Okay, so this one right in the corner, we're going to remove it, and we're going to put a stair in there instead. What we're going to do is we're going to waterlog this stair, and we're going to waterlog this piston, okay? But first, before we can do that, we want to also build some solid blocks just around the perimeter of this, okay? So I'm going to build this up to the same height as our top layer so far. We're going to build this all the way around, okay? And this is going to basically prevent any water from getting out and then ruining our redstone, okay? So this is a really important step, and we can cut this out a little bit by actually just focusing in on one specific area. But personally, I think that it's more important to actually have this done correctly. So I'm just going to pull this out like so, okay? So we end up with this relatively complicated looking trident killer. We want to grab our water, okay, and we can do this from down here. For example, we can just come to this spot. We want to waterlog that, and we want to waterlog that. When we do this, we can see that we actually have the water flowing directly down, and it spills out here. Okay, so before we want to put that water in, you might want to also just put some glass blocks down here, basically just bringing out a water stream. Okay, just down to this level here. You can see that the water will end approximately here. So this block, we want to then basically remove it, and we want to go ahead and find ourselves a hopper. We're going to take a hopper, and we're going to put a hopper right inside this spot facing this this block right here, right? So actually put glass there. We want the hopper, so we want to put the hopper there, and then what we're going to do is take this block out, okay, and then we'll grab our chests. Okay, so we're just going to put a couple of chests in here, and we'll just put them right here with a shift key here and here. So now we have a double chest that the hopper is already feeding into. Okay, so it's really important that you make sure that this nozzle from the hopper feeds into the chest, and then basically all that water is coming out here. Now we can go a little bit further if we wanted to, and add an additional water source just there, you know, just to kind of make sure you can speed up the delivery of the items. But for the most part, that's kind of that part done. So that's your collection system for this trident killer. The next thing that we need to do is we need to put a trident in there, okay? And what we want to do is we want to make it an impaling 5. So we're going to just drop this down. We're going to come into here. We've got a trident. We've got an impaling 5 book, and it's now an impaling 5 trident. Now you can do this with the villagers, etc. It's really, really handy to make sure that you do have something like this, because it's going to kill those creepers so much more efficiently, and basically prevent them from exploding. So it's always worth just having this in there. Once you've done that, you throw it into the bottom there. Your trident killer is now ready to go, and we can now move on to the next step, okay? And the next step is to basically now go ahead and build our basically the chute that takes our creepers from the spawning platforms up above into this area here. So in order to do this, we're going to basically build a little bit of a block just around here. So we want a 4x4 block like this. Okay, so basically we have this structure. It will look like we are basically coming in here. It's not going to be the most prettiest of things. You can make this look better if you want. And what we want to do is we want to go up by 15, right? So this is block number 1. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, what we want to do is we want to repeat that entire process on all 4 sides. Okay, so once that is done, you'll have something that will look like this. Okay, so you'll end up with a chute that basically drops the creepers down 15 blocks. And then basically up here, what we're going to do is we're going to create the reservoir that basically funnels all of the creepers from the spawning platforms down into this kill chamber. So to do that, we're going to go out by 7 blocks in each direction. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we're going to come over to this side. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. over to this side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then out in this direction as well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so when we come up above, we can have something that will look like this, and then we basically want to connect each of these corners up together to make one big square platform. So I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. Okay, and once that is done, you'll have something that will look like this. This is exactly the right measurements to take all the water from the outside and flow directly into the middle. So the next thing that we want to do is come to one of the corners, it doesn't really matter which. We're going to go out by an additional 1 block, okay, just out here, and then 1 block on top. We can then delete the temporary block below, and we can then build an entire wall around our platform just like so. This will basically act as a way of basically keeping the water in and flowing down to the center chute down towards our trident killer. Okay, so once that is done, you'll end up with something that will look like this. And then the next thing we want to do is take our walls, our stairs, and actually just bring them all the way across here. And we're going to go in an exact square just on top of the wall that we just created. Okay, and what we're going to do, just like we did with the trident killer, we are going to waterlog these stairs, right? And the reason for this is when you waterlog something like a stair, that water cannot freeze. And when you're up this high, specifically in the ice biome that we are in at the moment, the water can freeze. So by making sure that you have waterlogged stairs, it prevents any of that water from freezing and will not break the farm. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to go along and waterlog each of these. And provided everything is done correctly, you'll end up with something that will look like this, basically with all the water flowing directly into the center where we obviously have our kill chamber down below. So essentially that is your reservoir. This is going to push all the creepers down into the trident killer to be killed. Right, so the next thing that we need to do is actually then start building the spawning platforms. Okay, now this can be a little bit fiddly, specifically with the design of this. Because we needed to have this platform a very specific size, we cannot get the grid-based system for the spawning platform to be an exact square in the same way that we do here. So I'm going to draw this out in a very specific way, and then we're going to delete some temporary blocks. So what we want to do is we want to come over to one of these corners, okay, and we see the corner block just here. We want to go down 1, so we want to be exactly on this area here. Okay, we want to go up to 3 blocks high, and then we want to delete the 2 below. We're going to do this on all of these corners. So we're going to come over to this one, the diagonal. We're going to go here. We're going to go up by an additional 2 blocks, so we're a 3rd block high. Okay, we're going to come over to the other corner. We're going to go here 1, 2, and 3, delete the 2 temporary blocks. We have this one, and then over this side as well, here 1, 2, and 3, delete the 2 temporary blocks. We end up with basically 4 corners just kind of floating in midair. Then we want to connect these things together. Okay, so we're going to connect these all the way across. So we just basically create a big square that goes all the way around the perimeter of this build. Okay, so once you've done that, you'll end up with this particular pattern just here, and then what we want to do is on every other block, we want to basically extend with a line that goes all the way down. Okay, so every other block will then just basically create these lines that come down here, and then what we'll do is once that is done, will go in the opposite direction as well. Okay, and what this will do is it will create a bit of a checkered board kind of pattern with every other block being empty. Okay, so when we get to the end, you'll notice that we'll end up with a double line at the end. Okay, and I'm going to leave that there for now, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing, the same exercise, but in the opposite direction. Okay, and what this will end up looking like is this. So as you can see, as we kind of zoom out, we end up with a double line at the back and double line on the side. What we then need to do is basically come down here and delete this edge. Okay, we don't actually need a double line. It needs to be a single line. Okay, and this is just because we were following the perimeter of our reservoir down below, but essentially what we want is a platform that looks like this. It's a complete grid system, okay, with our trident killer in the dead center there just falling all the way down. And so essentially you end up with this grid-based system. Okay, So if I come back down here and we just come back into one of these corners, the next thing that we're going to need to do is we basically need to go ahead and get some trapdoors. We're going to need a lot of trapdoors. I'm going to use oak in this example, and we're also going to require some oak buttons or some wooden buttons. Whatever one is cheapest for you to kind of get, it doesn't really matter. Overall, you don't need to have anything more than a button and a trapdoor. It's not overly important. It's just important that you have buttons and trapdoors. So if you find that yes, you want to make them out of stone, you can make them out of stone. Otherwise, go ahead and make your buttons out of wood. So essentially what we're going to do is put trapdoors on the tops of all of these holes, okay, to the bottom. And what this is going to allow us to do is it's going to basically make the creepers think that they can walk absolutely anywhere on this platform. They will recognize the trapdoor as a solid block, and they can just walk straight over the top of it. However, we're going to open all of these up, and the creepers will fall through, and they will basically end up in the water reservoir down below. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish filling all these in, just like so. And once you've done that, you'll have a pattern that will look like this. Now, we're not going to open these trapdoors just yet because we are not done with this platform and we don't want to fall through. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our buttons. We're going to come over to one of the corners and we're going to put a button there. We're going to miss a block and then go to the next one. Miss a block, next one, miss a block, next one. We're going to do this all the way along this area until we get to the following corner. We're going to then just turn, we're going to miss a block, this is the line with the trapdoors, and then we're going to go down the next run, okay? And basically this is going to act as a way to prevent spiders from spawning, okay? So we'll end up with every other block being covered with a button. So I'm going to go ahead and just finish that on this platform, and then you'll end up with something that will look like this, okay? And so I'll just give you the bird's eye view here. So basically every other block has a button on it. All of the holes have a trapdoor in them. Again, it's the upper end of the block. So it's the top block where the trapdoor sits, not the lower end of the block, okay? Not the bottom half. So this basically is the pattern that we're looking for, okay? But we do not want to open up the trapdoors just yet. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to grab our solid blocks again. We're going to come over to just this area here. We're going to place a couple of temporary blocks, 1, 2, and then we're going to put a third block. We're then going to go ahead and delete the 2 temporary blocks, and we're going to go ahead and basically just follow the perimeter of our platform just here. Okay, we're going to take this right over to the end, and we're going to go all the way across to the other end as well. Almost there, just across to there. Go all the way around the entire platform, okay, until you've made a square. Okay, and what we're going to do is basically build the next platform. So we'll end up with this pattern here. Okay, the same as what we did below, we want to go ahead and basically go every other block, and we basically just want to go ahead and extend these down, basically just copying the pattern that we actually did the first time around. So I'll just be back in a second. Okay, and once you've done that, you'll end up with another grid-based system just above the one that you did before. This time we want to come back into our original layer down at the bottom here where the trapdoors and buttons are, and we want to grab our trapdoors again. This time what we want to do is we want to put them above everywhere where there is no button. Okay, so if there's a button, then we want to make sure there's no trapdoor, and if there is no button, we want to put a trapdoor. Okay, so we're going to repeat this process on the upper side of all of the platform above. Okay, this is actually quite a simple pattern, and what this is going to do is it's going to prevent zombies from spawning. Okay, and the reason for this is that zombies are slightly taller than creepers, so creepers can spawn here on the spawning platform, but zombies will not. And where there is no button is basically a spawning area, so a mob can spawn right here. Now the buttons prevent the spiders, and basically the trapdoor prevent the zombies or the witches. So basically we're forced only to have creepers spawning. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and populate all of this area here with our trapdoors. Now this particular build requires a lot of wood, a lot of trapdoors and buttons to build, because essentially we can go up to 10 layers on this entire build. But once you've kind of done one, it is really easy and simple just to replicate all the way across. But it can be very, very tedious, very, very boring. Specifically, if you're doing this in a survival world, it becomes even more difficult because we have to make sure we light it all up and then remove those light sources at a later stage as well. But in this particular example, I'm not going to be doing that. But make sure you've got a bed, make sure you've got plenty of light, because we are basically forcing creepers to spawn in here, and on survival that could end quite badly, as it did with my first build, and yeah, I actually lost a fair chunk of this build to a creeper explosion. So yeah, very, very important. I'm just going to go ahead and finish these off, and then I'll be back with you. Okay, so once you've done that, you'll have something that looks like this. We have all these trapdoors underneath, and we have all the trapdoors and the buttons on the bottom, okay? And now we can go ahead and we can open up these trapdoors, basically allowing creepers to fall on through. And if you do have any light sources down here, you could probably go ahead and remove those as well, or you could leave that until a later stage and remove them once you're actually ready to encase the entire thing to make it darker. But for the most part, I'm just going to go ahead and open these up so I don't have to come back through here later and do them again. Okay, so once all the trapdoors are open and you've got all those trapdoors underneath, you can basically go ahead and repeat this process for 10 layers. That's layer 1, layer 2, and then we'll go up 10 more layers. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so once it is done, we're going to have something that looks like this. We have 10 layers here. Okay, now you don't have to have 10 layers. 10 layers is just the maximum number. Okay, so you can have 5 layers, you can have 3 layers, whatever works for you, but 10 layers is the upper limit. Okay, we cannot have more than 10. Now, as you can see, under all of these, we have our trapdoors. Basically stops things like skeletons, zombies, etc. spawning, and of course we have all of the buttons stopping the spiders from spawning on each layer, as well as those trapdoors for falling through. So the next thing that we need to do is basically come to the very top here, and we're actually going to put a roof on this thing. So we're going to come into here, we're basically just going to find ourselves some slabs. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and I think we're just going to go with polished andesite. That's pretty much what I've used in this build, and what we're going to do is we're going to go in with 2 temporary blocks, okay, as we have done previously, then a slab. Okay, this basically is then a bottom slab, so if I were to put a block next to this, you can see how it's the bottom part of this block. This makes it a bottom slab. That's really important because it will mean that this becomes an area where creepers can spawn, and it basically makes it a lot more efficient as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the 2 temporary blocks, and we have our singular slab just floating here. What we're going to do is we're going to basically just build this perimeter like we do with all of the other layers, all the way around to start with. Okay, so we know exactly where to go. And then what we'll do is we're going to fill it in as well, okay? And then I'll be back in a second. Okay, so once that is done, we end up with a platform that looks like this, and underneath I've just put all the trapdoors as well to make sure that we only have creepers spawning here. We don't want zombies or anything like that. So once this is done, effectively what we can now do is build up the sides. We're going to make this nice and dark. Now I'm going to come right the way down to this reservoir here where this waterlogged stairs are. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to go to a corner, and we're going to put blocks of glass all the way around this perimeter as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to basically build this all the way up to those top slabs and basically just encase this entire build. Okay, so once we've got all the glass all the way to the top here, or any solid block of your choice, we want to do is now just extend the roof to join on top of the glass. Okay, so once you've got your roof on, it will look something like this. Okay, now the other thing that's really worth pointing out at this point is to try to make sure you have a really low render distance so that you can make this farm as operational and as efficient as possible. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we're just going to replace some glass down here as well. Okay, so where we have this drop chute coming down, we're just going to basically remove 2 blocks coming down here. Okay, basically what we want to do is we just want to turn this into glass so that we can see the creepers come down here as well. Okay, so we're just going to basically lift this all the way up. And that is about it, guys. It is that easy to go ahead and build this farm. It's actually quite a difficult build in terms of how much time it takes to build it, but it's actually a really super easy creeper farm and basically nets you a really good return. If you AFK here with a looting 3 sword for about an hour, you'll end up with about 18 stacks of gunpowder, so not too bad at all. So guys, if you have found this useful, maybe you're looking at building it, let me know in the comments down below. Hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. Stay up to date with everything that we do here at the BlockHead's realm. I don't think you will regret it. Until next time, guys, have a great day.